The following content was based on material available and accessible to all people at the website of the Arquivo Nacional de Brazil. The Brazilian UFO Archives website is neither sponsored nor endorsed by the Arquivo Nacional do Brasil.
BrazilianUFOArchives.com. A textual guide to the military declassified files.
Radio reports.
This one, and hundreds of other cases, from the declassified Brazilian Air Force files, are now available, in the English language, at BrazilianUFOArchives.com.
A lawyer in São Sebastião, São Paulo, reported flying on a UFO, and interacting with extraterrestrial beings in 1956. In an interview with Channel 13, a Rio de Janeiro TV, on the night of August 27, 1957, João de Freitas, lawyer and professor at the Catholic Faculty of Law in Santos, São Paulo, reported the strange adventure he had with a flying saucer and its crew members. He was also interviewed by the Brazilian Society for the Study of Flying Saucers, SBEDV, and confirmed his statements, which can be summarized as follows.
June 16, 1956.
On June 16, 1956, he went to São Sebastião for work. Finding the forum closed, he stayed at the hotel, and after dinner, went for a walk on the beach. It was 7:10 or 7:15 p.m., when, looking at the sea, he saw a jet of water rise, in the stretch between Ilhabela and São Sebastião. He immediately thought of a whale, but it was a bulky device, that emerged from the waters, and took the direction of the beach. When it arrived, it launched a landing gear, with balls. Through an opening, two men went out to meet him. They were tall, white, with blonde hair and serene eyes. They wore a kind of green jumpsuit, that narrowed on the neck, the wrists and ankle. At first, he was startled when they stopped in front of him. But, as they looked so human, he asked them, if there had been an accident with their machine, or if they were looking for someone. Having no answer, he repeated the question in French, English, Italian, with no answers. However, although they did not speak, the lawyer had the impression that they were inviting him to enter the device. It seemed to him that the crew were communicating by telepathy. Knowing that the invitation was insistent, Dr. Freitas felt an irresistible urge to see the interior of the object. One of the men walked to the ship, turning his back on him. He followed the man reluctantly, and the other one came after him.
Inside the flying saucer.
The individual who led the way reached the bottom of the ship, and climbed it easily, holding the ladder with one hand, while the professor needed the help of both hands. A third crew member was waiting for them. With the door closed, the object took off. At that moment, even though he was slightly ill, Mr. Freitas noticed that there was water on the portholes. Is it raining? He asked. He was told, telepathically, that it was not rain. That water came from the rotation, in the opposite direction, of the parts that made up the ship, they said. They explained to him that, around the ship, there was a ray filtration device, which had the property of making the semi-vacuum in any of its parts. He noted that, during the entire trip, they only remained in one compartment, but he noted that there were others, also lit. Through the windows, Mr. Freitas saw that they passed through an intensely dark area, where the stars shone in an extraordinary way. Successive regions, filled with stars, sparkled with incomparable brilliance. New dark areas followed. They then passed through a glowing violet layer, and on that occasion, he felt that the device was shaking strongly. As he showed fear, he was told that the ship had just left the Earth's atmosphere. During the trip, the lawyer asked several times where they came from, but got no answer. He doesn't know why. They didn't want to identify themselves. He noticed that there was a circular-shaped panel in the compartment, in which 3 very sensitive needles oscillated. He saw that, when they left the Earth's atmosphere, those clock hands started to vibrate intensely. As explained to him, the device was driven by the direction, resultant of the composition, of the magnetic forces in that place. When they returned, he noticed that his watch was stopped. But, he calculated the time they were in flight in 30 or 40 minutes.
New meeting.
Still inside the ship, they agreed to meet again on August the 12th the following year. In the same place. And at the same time. The date was marked by 12 constellations that were arranged on the zodiac. A wheel indicated the year, and the repetition of 12 times the number 8 gave an idea of the month of August. Mr. Freitas also declared that he did not attend the new meeting, because, as the case was widely publicized, a caravan had been organized by curious people to attend the interview, which would certainly cause great turmoil. In addition, the Air Force would send jet fighter planes to the scene. In an interview, subsequently granted to the ufology researchers, the lawyer declared that, a few days before the date agreed for the meeting, Colonel Coqueiro, in the presence of Dr. Gabriel Alca, his brother, had said, "If I were you, I wouldn't go to that meeting. I will have 2 jet fighter squadrons there, to receive the flying saucer." In this last interview, Mr. Freitas added that he had heard from people who gave public testimony on 2PTV, in São Paulo, that on the scheduled date, the flying saucer appeared. It was seen behind Ilhabela, passing over São Sebastião, and going towards Praia da Barraca Saba.
Extracted from the Special Bulletin, 1975, of the Brazilian Society of Studies on Flying Saucers. April, 1976. Luiz do Rosário Hall.
Arquivo Nacional do Brasil. Sistema de Informações do Arquivo Nacional. SIAN. Fundo Objeto Voador Não Identificado. OVNI. Código de Referência, DFANBSB, ARX006.
Radio Reports.
BrazilianUFOArchives.com. A textual guide to the military declassified files. 2020.